Hello there, Sprinkles. Why does crypto go up every 4 years? The main consensus used to be the Bitcoin halvening, but now we know it ain't the Bitcoin halvening. The real reason is due to the global liquidity index. And once you understand it, you're going to have conviction to hold no matter what happens. So why does crypto move up every 4 years? What's the secret? It all comes from the world economy dying in 2008. So the global liquidity cycle, it's literally just money printing. That's all it is, friends. There is nothing magical about it. We use a different name just to describe it from Mick Hovel, who ends up doing all the research on it. So shout out to Mickey Boo and Raoul Powell. They all cover it. But it's basically the secret's out. And eventually, friends, just like money printing, QE. So in the early QE days, it wasn't a full secret out. It was basically the insiders who were in finance or the finance nerds. Remember, it's pre-YouTube education days, really. And people who knew what was going on, they knew that, okay, the Fed prints money and then they buy bonds and then the yields go lower and then banks basically can hand out these cheaper loans and it just incentivizes people to take on more risk. So naturally, people want to take on more yield. So you had to be long stonks. See, we know that path right now. But eventually, too many people knew about that path. That's how we got 2021. That's how we had inflation too high. You see? But it all started from 2008. So they had to print a ton of money to compensate and put rates at 0% in order to slow down the world depression. So there was a world depression, right? And I have this big fat giant green arrow. This is where Satoshi makes Bitcoin, friends. So I wanna be the very best that no one ever was. This is where it all started, the journey right here, friends. So the world economy died and Satoshi makes Bitcoin because they say, oh, we're gonna have to stimulate. And then Satoshi, obviously knowing, they're like, wait a minute, what do you mean stimulate? It's the people's money. You're going to take money off the people, steal their purchasing power to pay off the crooks. I want to give people an alternative system. So Bitcoin is born. Now, ever since that moment, friends, world governments have been colluding via the global liquidity cycle in a 4-year period. You see, friends, in the GFC, GDP went that viciously negative. It was just like a total wipeout. Everything stopped. The banking system just fully gone. Liquidity's gone. Everything's pulled. Everything's destroyed. So what ended up happening was the rates all went to zero. Now, no one has to pay any interest off. You see? They're basically like, okay, 0% rates, everybody chill out. And then we end up figuring out a solution. And what's the solution? The solution is all these world government banks, they print money in unison. They stimulate, but they basically print money, they debase. And they get people basically buying up enough goods and services and just continuing their own economic activity until it gets a bit too hot. Once it starts getting hot on the inflation, they pull back. Now, because the world economy died in 2008, we're on life support since then. And I know you can't see it on this chart, friends, but in here they had QE1, they had QE2 and 3. Then his zombie virus, they had basically QE infinity. See that? So they had these QEs, 1, 2, 3, but look what ends up happening right up here. I'll show you right now. That was 2021 up here. That was inflation very, very hot, and we're still actually paying the sins for it today. So got Great Depression, friends. The truth is we did have a Great Depression. It was just from beneath. So you lost 50% of your purchasing power. So since 2008, right, your real purchasing power, I mean, you can only buy half as much stuff. Most people got destroyed. So the goods doubled, your wages didn't catch up. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. And this is the global liquidity index right now. We just write GLI, and you can just see this like sine wave. Now, it's not 100% specific and intact, but you can see it right now. Now, the most important thing to know that when there is a collapse of the global liquidity, that is the optimal time to buy. Because you're basically they pull out the liquidity, and then you're taking the other side. You're saying, I think, Mr. Government, you're going to have to print again because you're all full of poop. And if you don't print again, everything deflates and the bubble pops, which is true because they need more currency units to be created in perpetuity. See, friends, in the collapse, right, civilians seeing their portfolio down minus 50% is too much. So the government prints money nominally to raise prices. So in a nutshell, right, there's two ways somebody can become poor. One way is they lose their money. That's a tax. So the government can say, you know what, 50% tax rate, we've got to pay off the bills. That's one way. They take the tax, but that's very politically suicidal because the people will say, what do you mean? Why are you taxing me? You're the scum who messed up with the policy to save your crony crooks and the insider bug eaters. How dare you take currency off me? Right? Take it off them. So if you're a politician, you have a 0% chance of getting that voted in. There'll be a revolution overnight. That's one way to make someone poor. One way to make someone poor, take money out of them. Another way to make someone poor is to make all the goods and services around them more expensive. And that's money printing in a nutshell. That's what's actually happening, friends. That's why they're doing the global liquidity index as a measure to show you them doing exactly that. They're making everything around more expensive. See? So that's you got to think about that, right? Two ways to make someone poor. If you can't take it directly, make everything else expensive. If you have $100 in your wallet, friends, I can basically, and I have a banana, I could like take that $100 from you. I could do that. Or I could basically just list the banana for $100. That's another way. You have to pay. You're like, what the hell, banana? You know, $100, you get me 100 bananas. Now it just gets me one. You see, your purchasing power is destroyed now. They printed money to pay off the interest of their debts and stimulate economies until the inflation cracks too hard and then they pull back. This coincidentally times perfectly with the Bitcoin halvening. So this is obviously this is the banana zone chart, friends. And just to show you, we're going to play some nice pumping G music because that's all it is, man. Just magical colors pumping up now. Of course, it's a bit of an old chart, friends, but we're in this zone now here, okay, moving into 2025. But you just get to see in this Bitcoin halvening, look at this, Bitcoin halvening, Bitcoin halvening, Bitcoin halvening, and now Bitcoin halvening again. There's this like up part in there. And then the red part, so what I'm going to do now, just focus on the red. The red is the year after Bitcoin halvening. It's like extreme move, extreme move, extreme move. What's going to happen in our red? Is it going to be another extreme move? So what actually happens is, because they're printing money, there's liquidity buckets to fill. And they do it slowly. They do it nice and slow. But then eventually, friends, because prices are going up, the narrative becomes too big to hide. You see, in the QE days, I mean, you even saw this in the last cycle, right? You even saw this, friends. Every single person knew about money printing. Do you remember that around here in the red part? I remember, friends, I was talking about this money printer thing in the bear market when we were here, 3,500 BTC. Okay? When we finally got to the top of 2021, everyone knew about it. All the memes came out, the money printer, Fed power going, all these memes, videos, pictures. Everyone's like, print money, currency to pay. Everyone knew about it, right? So that should have been our warning sign going like, wait a minute. You guys are not geniuses for finally now believing that the money printer is the thing. Okay? You are not geniuses at all. You're just following the herd at that point, which means you're buying expensive, which means it's dangerous to be long. Now we're going to know that for next time, right? When everyone knows about the global liquidity cycle. we're gonna smash it the next one, right? So what's everyone now talking about, friends? Everyone's now talking about this global liquidity index. You see that? Global liquidity. So perhaps somewhere deep in 12 months from now, hopefully it's the end of next year, everyone's going to be talking about this global liquidity index. Wouldn't it be great, friends? Wouldn't it be amazing if like all our bags just 100x higher, and you guys are sending me videos, but they're playing videos of me at some conference, at some tour, or they're showing my tweets? Wouldn't that be good? Because we'd be like, oh, okay, time to get out. Everyone knows about it now. We're no longer contrarian. everybody has now adopted our philosophy, which means it's priced in, which means whatever price we see, that's now expensive. So you don't know how high the prices are, but it just means, okay, we're now expensive. Remember, green candles make you smarter. So that chart I just showed you, this one, it's fantastic to just see all this, right? So you get to see them, they ramp it up, and then obviously in the blue and the green, the liquidity stops. Yeah, the liquidity slows down because the inflation's getting too hot. And what they're actually doing is they're killing the fiat system. So they're just running it to the ground now. And their fail-safe, when it happens, is they're going to have the CBDC. It's like, I've said this example before, such a great example, friends. You're in a house and they want you to leave, but they can't get you to leave. You've been there for 30 years. You don't want to leave. So what they do is they put a rose petal path outside of your house to the house across the street, and you still won't leave. Okay, that's like the government saying, hey, here's a $20 stimulus check. Go and move on to this ABDC. They don't do that. People don't move. But what the government then starts to do is they do some coconut intelligence agency tactics, PSYOPs. So when you're not home, they rob your house. And then they set your dog on fire and your backyard on fire. And basically they start breaking everything. And, you know, when you're asleep, there's just bombs going off outside and things are being thrown into your cocktail, into your backyard, and things are just going really, really, really bad. So you leave. And then they conveniently have a party for you. Now, all that explosion and then basically being really violent to you, that's what the government's doing right now. It's just it doesn't look like it. But that's what they're doing by eroding your purchasing power. And I had to use those examples to show you that, yes, okay, you don't notice if you've lost 2 or 3% purchasing power today. But if you roll it forward 10 years, you've lost a lot. You've lost a third. You're getting crushed holding that. So it's all part of the plan. Right? So once it's finally ready to crack and it's unrecoverable, everyone's going to be rebased on a new system. And trust me, they're going to make some new scheme. They're going to give you, probably going to give you like these points or credits, and it's not going to be one-to-one, so you get confused. So they're not going to say, oh, give us 4 of these, we'll give you 1 of that. They'll do some different numbers and some like weird obfuscation ways. They'll complicate it enough so that you don't really feel by looking at it that you got robbed. But you know you got robbed. You know you have, okay? It's spooky and coincidental, or perhaps it was a divine intervention that made Satoshi choose it. Whatever it is, it works. So that's the Bitcoin halvening, friends. So this 4-year cycle I've been going through and how they're running, every 4 years they're running the fiat system to the ground. It's time to the 4 years halvening, which is just, it's just wildly crazy. Like, it could be divine intervention, man. It could have been when Satoshi was making it, a thought came in his head. He's like, I've got to make it like this. Maybe that's just how it has to be. It could be him thinking about it. I don't know. But it is what it is. It's one of those just crazy things, friends. Okay. So one day, though, that global 4-year cycle won't work because the debt will be too big. There will be a big crack and they'll have to do a great reset to PSYOPs the population in rebase, perhaps 4-to-1 onto a new CBDC dog poop currency. Okay. Now, they've got a lot of time because Japan's Pokemon Island, they're still going. You see? So it's not as clear cut. They can kick the can down the road, friends. I'll tell you right now, they can kick the can down the road. Like, they can do many things. They can like trick the people by saying, hey, it's not QE, but they just do international money printing currency swaps. They can do BS like that. They can also do things such as the food supply, friends. You know, when I tell you this, it's going to all make sense now. You ever wonder why there's this agenda to like stop meat, to stop people eating meat and cows and all these? It's the money printer. It's because meat's becoming too expensive. So obviously the government is trying to get people to eat bugs for protein because that's way, way, way cheaper than raising cattle, number one. And then they can rob the system even more. And also, when it comes to your food sources, they're probably trying to do the lab-grown stuff. So there are incentives down there. Now, you and I'm sure if we kept digging, you'll find some like suspicious funds and donations from government-sponsored science labs and stuff to try or government-sponsored wallets to try get these things like to hurry up and basically make a lot of groundwork here. Because then, think about it. I mean, like if they can, this is the thing, they're robbing the purchasing power of the people and they're buying scarce assets. So if they can just keep the population from starving and have another alternative food source and alleviate pressure like that, they just got to look after the food source, and then everything else they can basically just rob you with. So as long as the people aren't starving, they can keep kicking the can down the road. That's why it's really important that they get a grip on this. That's why whenever I see all of them targeting farmers, going after meat and all these, I'm like, they're really trying. They're really trying. And that's why it upsets me to my core when I see like these blue hair, genital mutilation, purple grape looking weirdos, these hormone blocking, like just ghouls who are like supporting the government doing this. And I'm looking at them like, you have no idea you're a tool of the government. You know, you're literally a soy latte drinking cuck. Like you're begging them to poison the well, to butcher your purchasing power, and your children and your children's children are going to be worse off for it. And you're a cuck. You understand that? You're just letting the government do it. They have no idea, friends. That's why I'm telling you, man, crypto is the best peaceful protest, friends, because the friends, you and I, we can't yell loud enough. They don't listen to us. No one cares. Go and protest. No one gives a shit. What you can do is only one thing. It is vote with your wallet. You can't change leaders. They both get corrupted. You vote with your wallet. How do you vote with your wallet? You have a bank account. They've given you a shit coin. There's the Aussie dollar. There's the Canadian dollar-y-do. You have the British pound. You have the South African rand. You have the Indian rupee. You have the US dollar. If you have a bank account and there's the digits there, you have a shit coin. You literally have a shit coin on an exchange. You are free to go and send your poop coin into another crypto exchange, transfer it out, and buy a scarce asset. So when you're holding something, friends, you can take your poopy, go buy Bitcoin, go buy Ethereum, whatever it is you want. Now you have exited out of the traditional financial system and you've said, you know what? You can keep doing your mess, scum government. I'm voting with my wallet. I'm going to go hold the scarce asset. And what you're doing is, friends, you're obviously front running the next billion people who are eventually going to catch wind of this, okay? However, when it cracks, friends, it's going to be big. But until that moment, we play ball. The bears think that big crack will happen any day now. So while it's available to you, not financial advice, you should be doing it. And you're going to regret it if you don't. One day, friends, you know that shitcoin trading of where you go a US bank account or an Aussie bank account and then you go buy a Bitcoin with it? Yeah, they're putting on the price controls already because the government knows they have to keep everybody from being able to escape. Get it? So while they're letting you do it, you better do it. It's just you don't want to find out if Bitcoin's 250K that now suddenly you've got like a $2,000 monthly limit until the system cracks or breaks something. So will it crack right now? I think it's too early personally to crack right now. Crypto is a rocket headed to the moon. Long your longs. This is Pikachu tapping on Bulbasaur as I look up into the moon, friends. So there you understand it, right? That's a whole global liquidity cycle. Your edge and my edge as friends is the fact that 90% of the population have no idea what the global liquidity index is or what the hell it's doing. So it is literally just money printing. However, they call them different words. They don't say QE. They say TGA, BTFP. They use these other words. They say reverse repo. And then they say, no, that's not a QE. They do this and they do that for this. It's for this purpose. No, it's all QE, okay? However, eventually, the biggest market players, the suckers, will eventually sniff out that it's just QE and they'll probably shit the bed on the bonds, which is poop the bonds out, and then the government's going to have to think of a new plan all again. But that new plan and in that scenario is probably a next bear market tail for us. But right now, the government has found a way to kick the can down the road. Because, why? I read the newspaper, I'll go and check out everyone. No one knows what the hell the global liquidity cycle is. I go, sweet, okay. Now, I want you to remember, when everybody knows what the global liquidity cycle is, it doesn't mean you are more right or that you're a genius. Okay, it just means we are onboarding more non-believers, and the prices we are seeing in the marketplace of crypto are now reflecting that the boat is now getting full. I'm hoping Bitcoin's price is closer to 250K rather than a 100K price, but we'll see what happens. Like, subscribe. Don't forget he loves you. Catch you soon.